All right, so it's that time of the year when you have to sit down at some point and say, look, I got to do my taxes, right? You got that. It's time to do your taxes. It's the way it is. Sorry. And if you don't pay your taxes, well, they'll just, come and pay you a visit and take things like your home, your car, your freedom. Nothing too serious. So which brings me to the idea of getting rid of the IRS altogether. How do you feel about that? Steve Hayes, tax attorney, chairman of Americans for Fair Taxation. Fairtax.org is with me. Steve, welcome back to the program, my friend.
It's always a great pleasure, Steve. And I think we'll find that most of America is very much with the idea of getting rid of the IRS.
Yeah.
And the income.
Count me in. All right. So yes. If we get rid of the IRS, and how many pages in the United States tax code? Can you even fathom a guess?
There's hundreds of thousands of pages of law, regulations, rulings, and court cases.
Right.
Literally.
So how does anybody keep up? How would anybody keep up? Why can't we just make it simple?
And that is what, well, let me back it up. That's a logical question, but look at who you're asking it to.
Yeah, well,
okay?
Right.
These are people up there that are doing such a great job. We've got a $30 trillion deficit, over 30 trillion.
Yeah.
And we've got total waste everywhere. And these guys are reelected each time, so they feel like they're bulletproof. But the truth is, Americans are starting to see the truth. They're getting fed up with the idea of doing business as usual. And so, Steve, I think we've got a real opportunity to see massive reforms, not only in the tax code, but in the way that most things happen in D.C.
Yeah, I see that, well, you've seen this, Steve, obviously. Wherever Doge goes, the left melts down and creates, they have tantrums and meltdowns and problems. And one of the places they intend to go is the IRS. And my answer would be, what is the big deal? If we can figure out that we're wasting money here and shouldn't spend money there, and there's, we got duplication over here, whatever it might be, we're paying $100,000 for a bag of bolts. Maybe that's a bad idea, right? Maybe that's just a bad idea to pay $100,000 for a bag. Yet the Democrats go crazy. Why?
I think because it threatens their whole existence. They've got a situation where they've built their lives on the idea that somehow or other they're the ruling class. They're the intellectuals. Well, they're the ones that control everything through the bureaucracy. And even though they're out of power, they have still controlled everything in the bureaucracy, so that no matter what Republicans have said or wanted to do, they were stopped, just like President Trump was his first term. They were stopped all the way through, or they just basically ran out the clock. They delayed and they delayed. So I think a lot of the members of the Democrat Party rely on that idea that they've got to have these people to control things. And the other thing, Steve, we talked about before, they want more victims who are reliant on them.
Well, let's be honest. Without victims, they don't have anything to sell. It's like, without patients, a hospital goes out of business. You need sick people to run a hospital. You need victims to run this victim mentality and this grift on the left. I can't stand a bunch of grifters. I mean, they are, right? So
they are.
Here's Elon Musk rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse. And it's going to happen at the IRS as well. 6,000, I think it was 6,000 new employees that had not made it through the probationary period eliminated from the IRS and other places. Is that right?
That's correct. And here's the problem. They're still using computer systems that were developed in the 1970s. They are so far behind. And the reason is that the more behind they are with technology, the more people they need, and the bigger the fiefdom for the supervisors, and everybody thinks they're doing great work. And what Musk is pointing out is that if you come in and you put in some technology, you're going to be able to eliminate, even in the IRS. I mean, I kind of hate to say this because I want to get rid of the IRS, but you're going to get to eliminate a huge amount of waste in the IRS just by updating the computer software, by updating the procedures that are followed. So there's that cavern somewhere that deals with federal retirements where they've got 1,000 employees and they do 10,000 applications a month, Steve.
Right.
10 per employee. That could be done probably with 50 employees and a good computer system where they read on 100.
Good Lord, we've got the files to have people be removed in a mine.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't even believe that was real. And yet we've got files, old-fashioned files, underground in a mine. I mean, how antiquated can we get? Look, you've got a guy here who can shoot rockets off and catch them. I'm guessing we can upgrade the computer system and make people efficient and get the job done and not have people hanging on hold for 2 hours at a time if they call the IRS with a question. Crazy, right?
Oh, it's incredibly so. And basically, one of the things that they love about their present system, I'm talking about the smart people, see, is that it's hidden all the taxes. Nobody really knows how much tax they pay because they pay tax when they buy things, not only with withholding, but on their telephone bill. They pay gas tax. They pay all of these other taxes. If you go to a retail sales tax like the fair tax, it's really simple. You see the tax you're paying, but here's the other part. If Musk cuts $1 trillion out of a $5 trillion budget, you can reduce the sales tax rate 20% day one. Everybody in America sees the impact of cutting. It becomes real to them because it affects their pocketbook. It's just a much better system. It's much worse for the ruling elite and for the people in D.C. who want to hide the ball.
Yes,
but it works much better.
Well, politically speaking, right? They do want to hide the ball. They want to keep their funding for, well, you had a White House or Whitehorse, whatever his name is, from Rhode Island, Sheldon Whitehouse there, passing bills that enrich his wife's charity. I mean, that kind of crap should never go on, period. Right. But let me ask you this, politically speaking. If you get a Doge dividend and you're an American taxpayer, and all of a sudden you get a $600 check, it's not going to be $5,000. It'd be $5,000 if you got to $2 trillion. It was a family of 4. But an individual gets $650 if they save $1 trillion. I think that's political gold. I do. I mean, by the way, we saved you some money. 20% of that is going to go back to you, the taxpayer. So here's $200 billion we're going to redisperse across the country. Here's $650 for you, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer. I think it's brilliant. I'll give you the last word on that, Steve-O.
I think it's brilliant, but I think they have to find a way to cut the spending quickly.
Yes.
And they have to find a way to fund it so that we're not having $2 trillion deficits.
I totally agree with that. We can start with $100,000 bags of bolts. Steve Hayes, always appreciate seeing you, sir. Don't be so long before you come back.
Would love to come soon. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much, Steve Hayes. Look, $100,000 bags of bolts, it still goes on. I remember seeing these stories on 60 Minutes when I was, a kid in middle school. Oh, you paid, $500 for a toilet seat. Well, that doesn't go on anymore. It's gone on ever since, every day in between, every single day. My money matters. Your money matters. This country matters. We need to clean up our act. I'll be back.